countless miles. We spent countless hours in the NICU. But we knew God was in control. And during all of this that we were going through, during all of this, we had a mission to complete. We weren't in California to make money. We weren't in California to raise a family. We weren't in California on vacation. We were in California to complete a mission, and that is to save souls. And at the time that Jude was born, I would love to tell you that our church was, in the highs of the high. But you know what? Our church was functioning in a very uneventful season. And the truth is, there are seasons in your Christian life that you want to forget. There are seasons as you serve God. There are times as you're serving God that you don't want to remember them. You want to forget them. They're hard. It's a time of struggling. It's uneventful. And this is one of those times that we were going through in church. It was not exciting. It was not fun. It was uneventful. There were people backsliding that we thought were locked in. People, just leaving God, going to do other things. Our finances were dropping. The attendance was dipping. There was a lack of conversions on outreaches. We could not, you name it, what was going on wrong in church, and that was it. People weren't getting saved. There was nothing happening. It was a very uneventful time in our church, a time we wanted to forget. And you know what? Think about this in our text. It's the very same thing for Ruth. It was uneventful, gleaning in the field. It's not glamorous. She was a foreigner in a foreign land, and she was there walking the fields, gleaning, getting, the leftovers so she can simply survive. She was simply working to survive. Verse 15 says, and when she rose up to glean, wow, that's exciting. And at times, this is what living for God may seem. At times, living for God, it may be like this, not exciting, uneventful. I'm just doing what I know to do, just putting one foot in front of the other. It's not exciting right now. I'm going to church, praying, worshiping, giving, witnessing, living clean. But nothing's really happening. I'm just doing what I know to do. Think about this woman, Ruth. She got up every day to glean. She got up every day. She just kept doing what she was supposed to do. Amen. This woman, Ruth, was labeled as a poor woman. She was an unnecessary part of life. She wasn't important in this world. Amen. She had no way to bring profit into another person's life. In fact, what she was doing by gleaning is she was preventing other people from making profits. And the truth is, maybe right now you're in this position. It's uneventful serving God. It's not exciting. Because the truth is, life can give you handfuls of grief. Life can give you handfuls of heartache. And there are times you want to quit. There are times you want to run away. There are times you just want to go back. But how many of you know that's exactly what a trial is meant to do? It's meant to show you who you really are. When you go through things in life, understand it's for a reason. And the trials that you face will show you exactly who you are. The saying is true, you know what's in a man's heart when they go through things. You see who you really are. The real you comes to the surface when you hit that speed bump, you run into that wall. And Ruth, she had no reason to be in Israel. She had no reason to be in this foreign land. There's no reason for her to stay there. Verse 15, and she said, look, your sister-in-law, verse 15, her mother-in-law is saying, Naomi says, look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. Her mother-in-law, Naomi, even commanded her to go home. You don't even belong here, Ruth. And there are people that you're sitting here and you're considering the exact same thing. It's not exciting serving God right now. It's not eventful. It's not glamorous right now in your salvation. And so you're considering going back to Egypt. You're considering going back to the old things. You're considering leaving. You're considering quitting. You're considering slowing down, holding back. Amen. Listen, this is probably because maybe you saw someone else struggle. At times, I understand going through things on your own can do this to you, but maybe you're going through this, you're having these mind battles, you're thinking about going backwards in life because you saw somebody else go through hard times. A Prescott conference one year, we were out fellowshipping, and there was a pastor's son, and he asked me this question: is pastoring hard? And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, I don't want to do it because I saw my dad struggle. And the truth is, there are people, you're considering leaving, you're considering going back because you've seen other people struggle. You see how they handle the situations and trials. And maybe when you're going through things like maybe you are right now, you're considering leaving and quitting because you can't process these trials correctly, because sometimes life gives you handfuls of grief. And what will you do with them? When I talk to you secondly about handfuls of promise, yes, it was hard. Everything that me and my wife experienced in the past 3 months, it was hard. I'm a full-time pastor. And I don't mean in ministry. I work full-time. I work a 40-hour-a-week job. And at this time that my son Jude was in the hospital, we were having to work overtime. So it's not just 40 hours a week. And listen, I'm not here to pat myself on the back. You got to balance this yourself. I'm working a 40-hour-a-week job plus overtime. But that's not it. I'm a pastor. At least 3 sermons a week plus Bible study. I'm a husband. I'm a father to two different kids, but in different locations. Jude was born December 19th, and he weighed 1 pound, 14 ounces. It's very interesting because you might have heard people being born early, and you might have heard people say that they can fit in the palm of your hand. And I've heard that before too. And I didn't really believe it until I saw it. Fit in my hand. He was hooked up to all kinds of tubes. He had needles inside of him. He had an IV going into where his umbilical cord was because the veins were still open. That's crazy. I wouldn't have even thought that can even happen, that's possible. He was encased in an incubator. He was in an incubator. He was separated from the world. And the thing is that one of the first things is that when you give birth to a child, the doctors immediately get them and put them into the mother's arms, right? We all know that. This didn't happen for us. We didn't get to hold our son till a week later. Imagine that. My son's born. My son. And I couldn't hold him till a week later. The saying is true: until you have a preemie baby, you will never understand the great distance between one pane of glass. It's a great distance. One of the hardest things that I ever had to face as a father was leaving the hospital and leaving him there. And we lived over almost an hour away. And we would walk out of that hospital knowing that we couldn't take our son with us. My son is going to have to stay here. My wife told me that one day she was at Target grabbing some things for the family, And she's there in one of the aisles, and there's two ladies there, and one of them was a brand new mom, and she has her baby in the stroller. And my wife is getting things in the aisle, and she begins to hear what they're talking about. And the new mom is saying, man, it's hard being a mom. This baby cries all night. My wife is thinking, I wish I had my baby there, that he could keep me up at night. We don't even have that luxury. You're complaining that your baby is keeping you up. We don't even have that luxury. My wife didn't say anything. She just left. See, and then I see they told us that it's one step forward, and then it's going to be two steps backwards at times, and you just have to get used to it. But that wasn't the end, man. We were there in the hospital for 81 days. And while we were there, we witnessed miracle after miracle after miracle. Day one, Jude came out crying. He came out crying, which of course shows that he can breathe on his own, that his lungs were, developed in a way that he could breathe. And the head nurse that was there, she says, listen, this is unusual. A baby born at 25 weeks 1 day, and he's breathing on his own. That's unheard of. But think about this, preemies' brains, they aren't developed yet. That's one of the last things to be developed in a baby is their brain. And their brains are not developed completely, and it's hard work for a baby just to breathe. It's not we don't have to think about it. But for a baby, it's work. They have to think about breathing. It's hard work to keep their heart beating, amen, to eat, to breathe. And as time went on, my son Jude, he got tired of breathing because he wasn't developed yet. His brain needed to develop just the simple muscles to breathe. And that's when they told us about his brain. They told us, that his brain was not in a good position. Think about this, as babies are born, of course they have to squeeze through.